Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and today I've got a very special guest, Telegram Sam from Telegram Sam's webpage. Check it out on YouTube. It's really a groove. How are you going, Telegram Sam?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So today we've got a really good sort of talk for everybody. We're going to be covering our 5 favorite rock vocalists and showcase an album that's dear to us from that rock vocalist. So it's in no particular order. Sam and I had a bit of a chat. It's really hard to do a ranking from 5 to 1. So we're just going to list it out as, just our 5 favorite rock vocalists and go with an album. So take it away with your first pick.
All right. So first, I'm going to talk about a newer discovery for me, even though she's very well known. But yeah, I discovered her through the great documentary that came out a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've never really listened to her music before. But that's Linda Ronstadt. I chose her album Heart Like a Wheel. This came out in 1974. This was her 5th studio album, and this was kind of seen as her breakthrough album, at least in America. Uh, but yeah, her voice, she just has a chameleon-like voice. Like whether she's singing pop music, folk music, rock music, even like the Latin albums she did in the 80s, like she can just like it's like the best folk vocalist, the best pop vocalist. She can really do anything she wants with her voice. She could probably sing opera and you're like, oh my God, that's the greatest opera singer I've ever heard. But yeah, like on this album, you have You're No Good, It Doesn't Matter Anymore. She does When Will I Be Loved, the Everly Brothers song. I Can't Help If I'm Still in Love with You by Hank Williams. I mean, she's obviously did mainly cover songs, but like her cover of Roy Orbison's Blue Bayou is just one of the most beautiful covers I've ever heard in my life. Like that last little high note she hits at the very end, I'm like, I don't know how that's humanly possible, but she did it. And yeah, I'm very glad I finally like dug into her work and really discovered just how amazing her vocals are.
That's a great opening pick. I haven't seen that documentary. I'm definitely going to check it out. I've heard it's amazing.
Yeah, I wish I could remember what it was called, but yeah, I just like randomly stumbled upon it one night. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, might as well. And yeah, it was
absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely. And she was just so phenomenally huge in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
And some of those tracks that you've just noted are the go-to tracks for to this day in classic rock. So they don't actually play the originals, they play the Linda Ronstadt version.
Yeah,
And to be
totally.
quite frank, I prefer the Linda Ronstadt versions of some of those
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah, she's amazing.
No, that's killer. All right, well done. Um, my one is she is a truly a brave innovator, and she started in 1978. She won a recording contract as an 18-year-old, and she, you could say that she's in the pop genre, but to me, she actually has traversed into rock, and that is the wonderful Kate Bush
Oh,
with
yeah.
the Dreaming. Now, this is 1982, The Dreaming. It's a bit of a dense album. It was actually produced by her, so you can say she's in her early 20s. She's producing this album, she's doing all the arrangements, she's using Fairlight synthesizers, which was at the cutting edge of synth in the 80s. True trailblazer. And Sam, I'm telling you, if there was no Kate Bush, there'd be no Tori Amos, no Bjork, no
Yeah.
Lord, and no Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
She is, and she's been nominated in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I tell you, she needs to get a Guernsey because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is all about influence. And gee whiz, you look at how many female solo artists have been influenced by Kate Bush. But that album, it's not an easy listen, but if you listen to it a couple of times, the penny does drop. It's very dense. Her lyrics, it covers the Vietnam War. It covers about the dreaming, sort of Aboriginal mythology. It's just really wide ranging. It's got folk, it's got pop, and it's got rock. But yeah, I love Kate Bush. Always had a soft spot for her, and she's my first pick.
I wish I had Kate Bush. I unfortunately don't have her in my collection, but I was like, I really want to put her in this, but I don't
Yeah,
have anything. But
next
totally
time.
agree with you on that
Yeah.
one.
All
All right,
right.
my next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So this is kind of like a 2-for-1 deal because I really can't talk about the one vocalist without talking about the other. But that is Kate Pearson and Cindy Wilson from the B-52s. I chose the album Wild Planet, and this was their second studio album. It came out in 1980. I mean, on their own, they're amazing singers, but like the harmonies they do together, there's just like nothing else like that to me. They're some of the two best harmonizers in music. And just like their wacky, weird style of singing, like that kind of throwback to like the 50s sci-fi, like B movie thing they were doing. And like also the weird like vocal effects they would do, like on the song Private Idaho on here, like when it literally just starts out with Cindy Wilson doing that ooh, 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 like that weird little
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, and like then you go to like Give Me Back My Man, which is Kate Pearson singing, but at the beginning of the song, she starts out very quietly, and by like the end of it, she's like screaming and like belting out like "Give me back my man!" Like you can feel the emotion. And like I'm reading Stevie Van Zant's book right now, and he talks about how singers have to also be good actors and be able to, emotionally convey to the listener like what
Mm,
they're trying to sing and the message they're trying to portray through their song. And I feel like she does that so good in that song through her vocals. And like my all-time favorite B-52 song, Strobe Light, where Cindy Wilson and Fred are kind of like doing this like weird back and forth phone conversation at the beginning, but by the end, it again goes into like the wacky like vocal sound effects she does, and then it just goes into like the regular song. I don't know, they're just so unique, and it's so amazing that these two women found each other and created this music together. And yeah, I don't know, I just love the B-52s and really love them. So
yeah, I do too. And I've got a funny story about that. So John Lennon, he retired in 75, and in 1979 he heard on the radio Rock Lobster, and he heard all the vocal mannerisms, and he goes,
yes.
honey, Yoko, we've got to get back to work, because he could see that Yoko, I'm a big fan of Yoko, and she cops a lot of crap, but I
Mhm.
love that sort of avant-garde type of music. And there's a lineage, there's an influence into the B-52s and the sound. But that's probably their best album, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. Besides
and
their debut is pretty good.
yeah, debut and number two, and the second are probably the essentials that you need to go. But yeah, I didn't expect that one, but that's a really, really good pick. All right,
Yeah.
well done. Okay, my next one is, forget about Ike, Tina Turner, Her Man, His Woman.
Yes.
This is absolutely killer. This was the first Tina Turner album that I actually bought, as in Ike and Tina Turner. So I've got a lot of Tina Turner solo stuff. Look, familiar with Private Dancer and the Thunder Dome and all that sort of stuff, but I'm to do a bit of a deep dive into the Ike and Tina Turner. This was the first one, and it's absolutely killer. And it's actually a remake of it's a remix of an album they did in 1966 called Get It, Get It. And when she did River Deep Mountain High, there was a bit of a wave of popularity. And they thought, okay, let's look at her old album, Get It, Get It, with Ike. And they added some horn arrangements, some strings, and they brought it out again, and they rebadged it and put it as Her Man, His Woman. It's got R&B, it's got rock, it's got funk, it's just magic. And her voice is just to die for. And I'm thinking, if I
Yeah.
was going to be in a band and I wanted a lead vocalist, a female lead vocalist, I'd love Tina up front. Proud
Yeah.
Mary, Come Together, River Deep, Mountain High. And you just hear in her voice, there's just so much emotion. She, you
Mhm.
know, we know what she's gone through. That documentary about her life is just essential, and it's really moving.
Yeah.
But every time she sings, you hear her emotion in her voice. It's just fantastic. And anyway, that's my number two, Ike and Tina Turner. Not Ike, but Tina Turner.
That's a good pick. I almost picked Tina Turner too, but I only have like her solo stuff. I'm like, oh, that's like not really rock. I don't have the Ike and Tina Turner stuff.
Yeah, do a deep
But that's a
dive.
really
It's really recommended. Yeah, worth
and
getting
like as a
into.
front woman, like when you watch some of those old school like TV shows, her and Ike would be on the 70s, and like the amount of dancing she's doing and the singing she's doing, I'm like, I don't know how she's doing that. Like
Yeah,
crazy. She's one of the greatest front women ever.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So my number three pick, this is a bit of a deep dive. I don't know if you're familiar with this band, but this is Babe Ruth and their singer Janita Hahn. They were kind of like a British 70s rock, hard rock, prog, even kind of proto metally band. But Janita Hahn was sort of coined as like the British Janis Joplin. But I think that's kind of boxing her in because to me, she has a bit more range than Janis. Like you can hear the similarities with Janis, but she can also go do some like crazy like Rob Halford, like early Judas Priest, like those high pitched notes Rob Halford could do. But like when she does the sort of ballad songs on this album, it kind of reminds me of like Karen Carpenter. So she's kind of like everything in between that. Her range is just so crazy. This isn't my favorite album from them. Probably First Base is my favorite album from them, but this is still just anything with her on it. You really just take away that she's one of the most underrated female rock singers ever, and
And it's
she
called Stealing
really,
Home, is it? I'm writing that
yeah,
down because I don't know this band, but the way you've
yeah,
described it, wow.
yeah, it's killer. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you would really like it.
Okay. And have they got a bit of a discography behind them?
They have, I think, 4 or 5 albums. They were only really active from 1970 to 1975. And
Yeah.
then I think they got back together in 2005. And I think they maybe released some albums, but obviously, like the stuff from the 70s is like their best stuff, especially their first like 3 albums are their best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
She is just amazing. And like, obviously a proto metal female singer. You can really hear the influence she had on later metal female singers and just phenomenal.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I always like
Yeah.
to get sort of switched on to new music, and I'll definitely check that out. But the way you've described it, it's kind of compelling. So,
Yeah. Killer, killer. You
yeah,
will really like
absolutely,
it.
absolutely. I like that. All right, this one maybe semi-predictable. She was at the vanguard. This lady was at the vanguard of the CBGB scene in the 70s. And we're
Mm.
talking about the wonderful Deborah Harry and
Yep.
Blondie, E to the Beat. So, look, this may be not their best album. Parallel Lines as always gets the rap, but I still think it's a very strong album. Dreaming, Union City Blues, and Atomic. And you've got all the elements there, the disco, the funk, the rock. And Deborah Harry, she's just a compelling front person.
Yeah.
She's just got sex appeal. She's got it. And yeah, I don't think I can say much more. But that was their fourth album. It went to number one, and they had the first 4 or 5 albums, they had a really good run in their discography. And then they had a long hiatus. Deborah went into her solo career and then reunited, and they're still playing today.
I think they're
So
working on an album right now, actually. I follow Chris Stein on Instagram. He's posting like a whole bunch of pictures of him and Debbie in the studio right now. So I'm
yeah.
really excited.
Well, funny you should say this. I belong to another group called the Contrarians, and one of the Contrarians is Andy Blackwater, who's the guitarist for Blondie. So
Really?
yeah, he's on our
Wow.
chat, and a good guy, and Yeah, he's touring, and they're actually currently touring. They're going to be touring the States and the UK, supported by the Damned. Now, how
Oh my God.
is that the greatest lineup of all time?
That's killer. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to see if they're coming to Portland.
Yeah, well,
Have
I
to
don't
see
know what the
that.
dates are, but they're doing America and then doing UK, but to die for.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Blondie, E to the Beat.
Killer choice. Um, my fourth pick, I'm kind of doing this for my mom because my mom loves this artist. And every time I listen to the album, I forget how amazing it is. But Pat Benatar, I picked Crimes of Passion, her second album from 1980. Um, I remember reading her memoir when I was a teenager, and she said in that as a teenager she was trained to be an opera singer, and I think she studied for like 2 years to be an opera singer, and she wanted to go to Juilliard
Yeah.
after she left high school, but then she ended up marrying her high school sweetheart, and he just hated the fact that she wanted to be a singer, so she like kind of dropped it until she divorced him, and then ended up creating her career that we now know her from. But like, God, just her vocals on Hell is for Children, like to me, that is like straight up like a metal song. I feel like a lot of people think of Pat Benatar and think of like Love is a Battlefield, like her more poppy stuff. But to me, this is like a straight up like rock metal album to me. And she does a cover of Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights.
Yes.
uh, I'm not gonna say it's better than Kate
No.
Bush's, but
No.
it's close. It's a close second. But like Little Paradise, treat me right, you better run. Just like there's no bad song on here. It's just all killer, no filler, and she's just one of the greatest singers in my opinion in pop and rock music.
Well done. And that was almost in my top five. That would have been under my bubbling under list. If we were going to do a part two, that would definitely get it. Look, that's probably her best album. Actually, the
Yeah.
first couple. Don't groove on the later ones when she went into the MTV, doing songs like We Belong with the children's
Oh God.
choir, got a little bit
Yeah, I know.
cheesy. And The Lovers, the Battlefield is, yeah, that's
It's
not,
all right, but
it's
it's
okay.
nothing compared to what is on that album.
Yeah, it's
Even the
stonking.
worst song on that album is better than that song.
Absolutely. And another Rock and Roll Hall inductee. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
and
Yeah.
long overdue. So she's
Mhm.
battling Kate Bush. So
Oh man.
pick both of them, I say. No,
Yeah.
that's a great choice. All right. This one is a little bit of an Australian legend that you may or may not have heard of. Had a one hit in the US and known as a bit of a one hit wonder, but in Australia, she's a rock legend, and that's Chrissy Amphlett of the Divinals. So,
Oh
Sam, I don't know if
yes.
you're aware of the Vinyls, but they
Yeah.
were sort of like a new wave band.
Mhm.
And she it was formed in 81, 82. It was like a boyfriend girlfriend band, like most of those power units, like, the Eurythmics. Very fractious, but gee whiz, when they sort of put music together, they were fantastic. And she's one of the greatest front women I've ever seen. She's outrageous. Um, she used to wear sort of like a school uniform. I'll just see, sort of like on stage, and she would just be another person. I would say somebody described her as halfway between a Steve Tyler and Bon Scott in a female form, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, I could
So,
do that.
yeah, check out the clips on YouTube. The big hits on that album, What a Life, were Pleasure and Pain, Sleeping Beauty, and What a Life. Or In My Life. It's just a great album. I would describe it as sort of rock, new wave, and yeah, Chrissy Amphlett, no longer with us, unfortunately. She passed away about 10 years ago,
Oh,
but
I
she
didn't
was
know
one of the
that.
greatest front people. And unfortunately, a lot of people just think of her as the I Touch Myself,
Yeah, that's the
which was
only song I know from them, unfortunately.
yeah,
But now you're making me want to like dig into their work.
yeah. But she's definitely one that was just on stage that, just sort of oozed sexuality, just comfortable in her own skin, and just took command of the stage. And as I said, she was part of, even a little bit of Iggy Pop, part Steve
Mhm.
Tyler, and part Bon Scott, if you can imagine that. And the music was just really stonking. So check that out. That's What a
Yeah.
Life. And it's definitely, they put about 5 or 6 albums, and definitely worth investigating their discography.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check them out more. My last pick is kind of obvious, but it's like when you're talking about the 5 greatest rock female vocalists, it's kind of an injustice to not include her. But that is Janis Joplin. I do have Pearl, but to me, I think if there wasn't this album, there would have been no Pearl, and there would probably have never been Janis Joplin. But yeah, this is the album she did with her band Big Brother and the Holding Company. Cheap Thrills came out in 1968. The second album she did with them. And to me, she's like the first female rock star. She kind of like gave the middle finger to what was expected of female entertainers and singers during that time. She wasn't conventionally pretty. She drank, she smoked, she did drugs, she was bisexual. She was a true rebellious female rock star. And plus, she was just a killer singer, just one of the all time greatest singers in general, no matter what gender they are.
Yep.
And yeah, it's you have her doing I Need a Man to Love, Summertime, Piece of My Heart, Turtle Blues, and then it closes on Ball and Chain. And the live version she did in 1967 at the Monterey Pop Festival of that song, I think is like one of the greatest live vocal performances ever. Like there's this, the clips of like Mama Cass reacting to her singing, and that was like the first big stage they were on as a band. And you just see Mama Cass like cannot believing what she's hearing coming out of
Yep.
this woman's mouth. And
Yep.
yeah, she's the ultimate female rock vocalist to me. So
No, that's a great choice. And that album, that ticks over. It sells every year because
yeah.
there's always a new generation of singers and artists that just discover Janis Joplin, and they always go to that album,
Hmm.
and the legend continues.
Yeah.
Well, great pick. That's a good one. I'm going to finish up with someone a little bit more contemporary, Polly Jean, PJ
Ah,
Harvey.
yes. I almost picked her too.
Yeah, Songs from the City, Stories from the
Yes.
Sea. Is this her best album? It's her most commercial. Maybe it's her most accessible, but I love it. I think she's just got a lot of swag, a lot of groove, and she's just the coolest rock singer, female rock singer there is. I saw her in 2003. She had food poisoning. This was her first ever tour of Australia, and I was in the sweaty theatre 2000, and she came on, and she just commanded the stage. And she is just fantastic. Words cannot describe. That was probably one of my top 5 live concert experiences ever. But that
Yeah.
album, Sam, is just great. It's got, Good Fortune, The Mess Within, where she does this beautiful duet with Tom York of Radiohead. Um, this Is Love, Kamikaze. It was kind of her commercial breakthrough album. She's still alternative. You wouldn't see her albums trouble the top reaches of the chart, but she just does her own thing. And,
Hmm.
I think that's her most rock album. And yeah, she's probably my number, 5 out of the 5 picks. I love her to pieces.
Yeah, she's good. Yeah, there would not be like acts like Saint Vincent. Like Saint Vincent is pretty much just ripping off PJ Harvey's like
Yeah,
entire thing. But she is putting her own sort of like unique spin on it. But yeah, that's a really good choice.
she's and very comfortable in her own skin, and she's
Yeah.
a mean guitarist, great arranger. And over the last year or two, she's just had a reissue series of her albums. So where
Yeah.
every one of her albums has come out on vinyl, and she's actually done a counterpoint um, demos. So there's like a demo version of this, a
Hmm.
demo version of Rid of Me. All her albums are with demos. So if anyone wants to get into a deep rabbit hole with PJ Harvey, just check it out over the last 2 years. Great choices. Have you got any quick, sneaky honorable mentions? We don't have to grab an album, but just a couple you want to throw, or?
Well, the one that immediately came to mind that neither one of us talked about is Polystyrene by one of my all-time favorite punk bands, X-Ray Specs. She was a teenage Black female woman in London during the late 70s, right at the breakthrough of when punk was becoming a thing. And their debut album is just one of my all-time favorite albums. And I think anyone who is a fan of music and a fan of punk music should do themselves a favor and listen to that album, because it's mind-blowing.
It's
And
essential. It's
yeah,
essential. If you want that
essential.
in, if you want to
Yes,
get 70s punk, you got to get that
that's it.
album.
My all-time favorite punk album ever. Yeah, I love that. And she was just so badass and ahead of her time. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, my honorable mention is, I was going to throw it here, was Susanna Hoffs of the Bangles. I
Yes.
really groove on them. Now, if I was going to present the album, I haven't got it here, I'd probably do their first album before they went down the path of Walk Like an Egyptian and all the mega hits, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's fun. But her first album, it's a pop, power pop masterpiece. So I would have put her. And I like that band a lot. And, the Rickenbackers, the jingly guitars, the 60s sunny pop, just makes you feel good. It's
Yeah,
great music.
totally agree with you. That's a good one.
Yeah, very good. And maybe a quick shout out for Susie Sue, Susie and the
Yes.
Banshees.
Yep. Yes. Susie Quattro, another great Susie.
Yes. Now, why isn't she in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Because
Right?
in America, I think she's just known as Leva Tuscadero out of Happy Days, and
Yes.
they had that one hit with Smokey called Stumbling In. But
Yeah,
in
stumbling in.
UK, and Australia, she was mega huge. She had like multiple #1 hits. She was just massive, and she was like a pioneer of girl rock.
Yes, she was in a band since she was like since she was 13 or 14 with
Yep,
her sisters, and one of her older sisters is the drummer for Fanny, probably one of the first all-female hard rock bands ever. So,
I've got the vinyl of that. It's a good
ah,
album.
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, great choices. Well, maybe we could do a part two, because I think
Yeah.
there's quite a few. There's quite a
There's
few.
plenty to choose from. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Sam. Thanks for your time. That was a bit of a
Thank you
gas.
for
So I think,
inviting me.
yeah, absolutely. Everyone, put your comments down. What are your favorite female vocalists? Please subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Please subscribe to Telegram Sam. And we're going to have a chat pretty well soon. So see you
Mhm.
later.
Bye.